we are not blessed with a truly independent and confident judiciary. Ours is a judiciary filled by career judges who watch where the wind is blowing as they prepare for their next application for promotion to the next level of the judicial ladder.
Judges vote. And so this idea that they have no political preferences is a myth, it's a lie. The fact that they vote means they have political preferences. And over time in these matters, there were contradictions in judgments that I just couldn't reconcile. One, a president is asked to explain reshuffling, right, by the same courts that later would tell you it's the president's prerogative. One public protector is told they can refer things to other organs of state. And the other is not by the same court. I found that judges, like journalists, like lawyers, like everybody, are influenced by what the dominant narrative is. And I am writing these things to encourage them to reflect. And if honesty, as I realize, honesty and being truthful are not part of the legal fraternity, I'm very ready to leave this fraternity, actually. I actually don't. I know they will be coming for me, Vuyani, many. And it's fine, because I don't define myself as a senior counsel. I'm Muzi Sikhakhane, a citizen, a freedom fighter, and a person who likes justice. And then I'm a senior counsel.
Legacy, thanks again for talking to us at Anchored in Law. In this segment, I'd like us to talk about the judiciary. You say very serious things about the judiciary in South Africa in the book. And I'd like to see your expansion on what informed this thinking. And we'll do so by going to some excerpts in the book, just to give a taste of what we are talking about. In one instance, you write, "Let me get myself into trouble now." The paragraph opens in those lines. And you go on to say, "From what I have observed in various judgments lately, in the high courts in particular, I have several concerns about the reasoning, independence, and integrity of the judiciary. I have grave concerns. I'm of the view that many judges are unconscious victims of popular sentiment and sponsored grand narratives in society. Many of them dispense injustice in the belief that they are being patriotic and associating with the right side." Right?
Yeah.
And on another occasion, you say, "I do not think we have sufficiently honest people in our judiciaries all over the world, particularly in South Africa." And by the way, this doesn't appear to be a view that is only held by you, but I'll come back to this. In another instance, you say, "There was no way President Zuma was going to win a case, even if it was a clear one. I had already accepted this reality. The climate did not allow for it, and we are not blessed with a truly independent and confident judiciary. Ours is a judiciary filled by career judges who watch where the wind is blowing as they prepare for their next application for promotion to the next level of the judicial ladder." One more. You say, although this is a matter that you were doing with another junior here, you say, "Although I thought the case was straightforward, I had known our judiciary long enough to know that they were unlikely to find against President Ramaphosa. This is a CR17 case. At least not during that period. In fact, had all the allegations against President Ramaphosa been leveled against President Zuma about funding of an internal ANC campaign, the judges and many who defended President Ramaphosa would have been horrified. In my first consultation with Advocate Mkhwebane, I expressed my doubts that South African courts would find against President Ramaphosa in a matter of this nature. For the first time, I boldly told a client that our career judges are more aligned to power than they are to justice. I had seen enough of this judicial immaturity and bias in cases of a political nature. The very same people that claim to be apolitical are actually involved in the worst form of devious political agendas in South Africa. They hide it behind the pretentious concepts of the rule of law. As I read the correspondence written by President Ramaphosa's attorneys, I knew that we were up against the usual arrogance of power and we had no chance at all. I raised it again with Advocate Mkhwebane that in cases against President Ramaphosa, we must accept that our judiciary does not have the spine to go against him. It is not President Ramaphosa's fault, but the sheepish docility of most of our judges in the game of political power and the advancement of their careers. Political power resides not only in government or levers of power, but also in civil society. And you go on and on in that vein. But I did say you don't appear to be the only one who holds that view, because you write that another senior counsel who represented Jacob Zuma expressed similar views. And you quoted him as saying, and that's Camp SC, you quoted him as saying, and I quote, "I am absolutely convinced that President Zuma in a normal court system would be acquitted and that so much injustice has befallen him. I have no doubt in my mind. It is the courts I doubt, particularly after the NDPP has now cowardly decided to recharge him after the review case in the SCA." You report Camp having said that. What was the context in which, firstly, Camp said what you say he said here, and secondly, what informs your view of the judges in the manner in which you describe them in this book?
Well, let's start with the Camp. I met Camp had been in this and it had tired him. He was fatigued. And I don't think he was fatigued because he did not want to go to court because I think Camp is like me personality-wise. He's an academic who had high hopes that the judicial system is, and that's the naivety of most of us who are academic and all of this. I will admit to that naivety, and that fatigued him. I think he had reached a point where he could no longer prepare, because when you're representing what is regarded as the scum of the earth, you're always 10-0 down as you start. And I think he was not retiring because he was tired. And he told me, because he was old, he said, "I'm fatigued. I can no longer prepare." And of course, I had the energy. I was starting, but I reached his point. And this, let me start by why I say hard things about judges. First, I'm not scandalizing them or a particular judge. Judges are holders of power. They are like the president and the cabinet. They are like the ministers and the members of parliament that we insult daily. They occupy no special place as repositories of public power. And so I talk about them not because individually judges are not great, they are not great people, they are dishonest, or there's a particular one. No, they are repositories of power. And I'm saying these things from a position of someone who prepares to do a matter, and I felt that we lack the maturity because of who becomes a judge in South Africa. We lack the maturity to be absolutely rigorous about cases that come before us. And I don't think it's because people are corrupt per se, and that's why I say it there. I think most of us, we talked about this earlier, we are unconscious about how grand and powerful narratives influence us. Judges vote. And so this idea that they have no political preferences is a myth, it's a lie. The fact that they vote means they have political preferences. And you can see them as counsel. And over time in these matters, there were contradictions in judgments that I just couldn't reconcile. One, a president is asked to explain reshuffling, right, by the same courts that later would tell you it's the president's prerogative. One public protector is told they can refer things to other organs of state, and the other is not by the same court. And it's those contradictions for me that made me conclude that we need better maturity in the courts. We need people who, and I don't even think they must not be political. By the way, there's a difference between political and politics in political science terms. Political is everything. It means you must be aware of perceptions, you must be aware of psychosocial circumstances, economic circumstances, and everything. Politics is party politics and those competitions. And I think I found that judges, like journalists, like lawyers, like everybody, are influenced by what the dominant narrative is. And I am writing these things to encourage them to reflect about when they start a matter, let's say about Zuma or Ngalwana or Mkhwebane. Is it not possible that they have a particular preferred outcome and they work towards it? And we are all like that, by the way, about bias. And so what I'm asking people to do is not that they must not be biased, is to be aware. When you are aware of your bias, you are aware at the beginning, and you confront it, you will be a better person, a better adjudicator. So the harsh things I'm saying most constructively, because I think we need those words as I say things. I don't believe in half measures. And I think I say them constructively because I think we deserve a better judiciary. Just like we deserve a better executive and a better legislature.
Have you lost confidence in South Africa's judiciary and the judicial system?
Right. Yes and no. In the ordinary cases of Rule 43 and the lease and all of those things, I think we have very dedicated men and women who are judges who are doing honest work every day. But I've lost confidence in the ability of our judges, even our executive and everyone to appreciate that we are a pawn in a grand scheme of global power. And South Africa is a strategic place. And unfortunately, we've not really analyzed power dynamics in society, in how those dynamics influence our perception and our work. And we can pursue agendas that we are not even conscious are anti-freedom, anti-liberation. And I have lost confidence, not in individuals who are judges, but in the system as it all. And when I watch the JSC interviews, I watch all of them. It's disappointing. No one has really been asking about judicial outlook and philosophy and the political understanding. The judiciary is part of a political system of a country. And I've never seen any judge who's being appointed or interviewed asked to tell us to understand their political outlook, because justice is part of political governance and their judicial philosophy. And I think I've lost hope because the entire system, not individual judges, does not appreciate that our spheres of government exist in a particular context, which is a liberatory context, a particular historical context in which we are trying to take society out of power of slavery, colonialism, and subjugation of one race by the other, which continues in different forms.
As you might expect, Advocate Sikhakhane, there are people who, in reading this book and the things you say in relation to judges and various judgments, I mean, you characterize, for example, the judgment of the Constitutional Court in the incarceration of President Jacob Zuma as, I think, shameful judgment, at least the majority judgment, in as much as President Jacob Zuma was, if you like, I almost said sent to the gallows, but sentenced, not sentenced, but given a custodial sentence by the Constitutional Court without him standing trial, as one would expect when you give custodial sentence in a criminal setting. There are people out there who would say, you are a senior counsel, and when you say these kinds of things, that you've lost confidence, you don't have trust in the judiciary, that then you shouldn't be practicing as an advocate. That this is a contradiction in terms. You should find another career and become a preacher or a teacher or man cameras or something. What would you say to people who say that?
Well, it's exactly what I said to you. It's because we are unable to see from outside the frame. Even the idea that when I use the word shameful, I'm insulting someone. How many insulting words have been used against President Ramaphosa and President Mbeki and Zuma? Why is it that I'm unable to use the word shameful when a particular sphere of government has done something that I think contradicts the Constitution? I think it's something I say in all honesty. And if honesty, as I realize, honesty and being truthful are not part of the legal fraternity, I'm very ready to leave this fraternity, actually. I actually don't. I know they will be coming for me, Vuyani, many. And it's fine, because I don't define myself as a senior counsel. I'm Muzi Sikhakhane, a citizen, a freedom fighter, and a person who likes justice. And then I'm a senior counsel.
Well, in fairness, you do go into some detail in explaining why you characterize the judgment as such. Yeah. It's up to the reader to then decide whether that justifies it.
Let me just give you one example, because people say this, but Zuma did not come to present his side.
Yes.
That just shows you the level of depravity. So if someone was sentenced to death, even though it's unconstitutional, the judges would have no choice but to send him to the gallows, because the lawyers did not come to say, by the way, the death penalty is unconstitutional. Section 35 of the Constitution tells us that it's unconstitutional to send someone to detention without trial. Why do you need lawyers to come and present to the defenders of the Constitution, the judges, for them to say, no, hang on, even if he's not here, we won't do that. We will refer this matter for trial. He must go there, explain himself. So that explanation itself, that justification, just shows you what grand narratives and lack of honesty have become the defining characteristics of South Africa's body politic.
Yes, in fact, the Zondo Commission and lack of participation therein when he was invited, that is President Jacob Zuma, to come and testify, which culminated in this application by the Secretary of the Zondo Commission to the Constitutional Court to have him declared to be in contempt. That really is the subject of what we're going to be discussing next, which is the participation or non-participation in the Zondo Commission that led to this application, and the advice that you may or may not have given him at the time.
Sure.
That's what I want us to get into in the next segment.